Hello, my name is Lauren. I was making this video by request from Robert because he wanted me to talk about essentially what turned into my success story and getting over a lot of my anxiety about current world events and past world events that did or didn't happen. So I'm going to start off by telling that if you see me staring at my tablet, it is because I have my notes down here. So my extreme anxiety and depression, OCD, doom spiraling thoughts started in 2021. It was actually before Russia invaded Ukraine. My original freak out doom spiral moment was a theory that if the La Palma volcano continued to erupt the way it was, it would cause a tidal wave that would wipe out the entire south and east coast of the United States. I fell in pretty hard with that, and that is kind of what started me on my never-ending reading of the news. And then the Russia invasion of Ukraine happened, and I felt paralyzed by fear because I had heard that Russia had put their nuclear forces on some kind of standby mode. Back then, I thought that meant something. I was so sure that any second now, the world was going to end pretty much. So I spent weeks of my life, not days, not hours, weeks of my life, reading every single article that I could possibly find that pretty much backed up all of the fear that I had. At the time, I didn't know Robert, I didn't know about debunking doomsday, so I was kind of going on my own. It was utterly horrifying because everybody had a theory, everybody had an idea, everybody thought that they knew exactly what was coming next. And the weird thing is, nothing that they thought was coming next ever came. But I'll get to that later. I had my first epileptic seizure in, I want to say, April of 2021, shortly after the invasion of Ukraine, because I had stressed myself so much. I had lost so much sleep. I had been in such a state of panic attacks and anxiety attacks that my body finally snapped. And I had my first seizure. Ever since then, I've been dealing with epileptic seizures. And I'm only just now able to afford care for those seizures. So to give you an idea of how long this has paralyzed me, I have been stuck in this never-ending fear anxiety spiral since about 2 months ago, and I can get you further into what happened for me 2 months ago that changed my life. But it has been mostly on, but sometimes off moments where I was just living in perpetual fear and anxiety and dread. As I said, I would read every news article that would defend my idea that the world was getting ready to end. And for the last 4 years, I have been waiting for a day that never came. I've been waiting for the World War III. I've been waiting for the nuclear apocalypse. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for something that never came. And all of that anxiety did terrible things to my health. I lost weight. I couldn't sleep. I lost friends. I lost family. I was so hyper-focused on this one thing that I lost the joy of my life. My husband didn't recognize me. My church didn't recognize me. I was a completely different person, obsessed with everything that was not healthy. And I'm here to tell you those things are not healthy. Reading constant news stories is not healthy. The news, before I knew about Robert and his fact-checking stuff, the news constantly lies to you, I promise. Their job isn't to make you feel safe. Their job is to scare you. Their job is to make you afraid so you keep clicking and clicking and clicking because that fear makes you want to read the next article and the next article and the next article. I promise you that is not healthy. Most of the news is telling you half-truths, and not only that, but a lot of the news is going to recycle the same story over and over and over again, word it differently, slap a new date on it, and recycle it. The amount of nuclear war is here that I have heard in the last 4 years would make somebody's head spin. And we're not any closer to it. I promise you we're not. Trust me. So I can tell you without a doubt, it is so unhealthy for you, anyone that's watching this, to continue to put yourself through that. I promise you, it is only hurting you. I lost so much weight last November. I stopped eating for an entire month. I almost got put into a hospital because I tried to kill myself. None of this stuff is healthy, and it's not going to lead anywhere pleasant. It is going to keep hurting you. And the more conspiracy theories you read, the more random armchair generals you watch on YouTube who have no idea what's going on, the more things that you fill your mind with that just continue to feed the negativity spiral and cause you panic attacks and anxiety and dread and sleepless nights, it's going to kill you. I don't want to say that lightly. It will kill you. Anxiety can kill you. Panic attacks can kill you. They can put you in the hospital. They can give you heart attacks. They can make you suicidal. I know. I might not be here right now if it wasn't for my husband and my church, and Robert specifically. So, before I met Robert, I didn't have a method of fact-checking, because there was nobody out there who was going to fact-check whether or not we were at nuclear war, because we weren't at nuclear war. But nobody could fact-check the people saying, well, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, because it was all speculation. But Robert, when I discovered his group, and I found him, and I can't even remember how I discovered him, or when he came across my feed, but I just remember that first article he wrote, and I read it, and I was like, what is this? And I remember it was recommended that I checked it out by another friend of mine. But I thought Robert was crazy, which is funny because he is the most sane person I've ever met, and you can trust him. But I thought, he's not telling me everything that scares me, so it must be wrong. But the longer I talked to Robert, and there were long conversations, constant anxiety-driven conversations where I would just pour everything out onto him. I would argue with him. I would fight with him. I am stubborn. But after a while, when everything that I was afraid of, he would debunk, and then the weeks would pass, and I would realize, well, holy crap, none of those things that I feared ever ended up coming to fruition. Maybe I can listen to this guy. And the more he debunked, and the more he talked about things that weren't possible, or were inconclusive, or outlandish, the more I believed him. And it wasn't until a few months ago I discovered what I call the cure. One of the things that I rely on a lot is my faith. And I don't know if any of you have a faith or a church or a religion, but that was a huge help for me. But what really hit the nail on the head for me was a few months ago, my husband had had enough. And he said, that's it. We are turning off the internet on your phone. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say the internet was turned off on my phone. He put a password into my phone that blocked Safari, my app store, any kind of internet, anything. So I could not get into anything. I had no access to the internet. And if I tried to get backdoor access through a link or something, I was immediately kicked off. It was so difficult for me to relinquish that control at first. But finally, I said, I didn't really have a choice, but I said, fine, we'll try this. It's not going to work, but we'll try it. And at first it was really hard, because then I would find other ways to look up at the news. I would go to work and I would look it up. I would do anything that I could to find access to the news. It was like a drug. I was addicted to the fear. And so the longer I went without looking at the news, the more I realized I didn't need it in my life, because I thought for sure I needed to read every single article that came out. I needed to know what was going on. But the longer I went without it, the more I realized ignorance is bliss is totally fine. And all of that time, those 2 months, this last 2 months, really, it's been 2.5 now, that I haven't had any access to the news, I've been perfectly fine. We're still alive. We're still here. No one's dying. Well, people are dying, but not what I mean. The world isn't ending. The sky is not falling. You're not in danger. I promise you, you're not in danger from at least the things that you probably think about constantly. And it took me this long to realize that I never needed it to begin with. And you don't either. I promise, if you just turn it off. Turn it off. Turn off your internet. Turn off your access to the internet. Find a trusted person to set a passcode on your phone that blocks the internet so you have no access to it. And if you think that that is too hard, then here's another method we tried. There's something called the Porn Blocker Plus app. You can get it on iPhone, Android. I pretty much think it's on everything. There's a subscription service to it, but we paid for it for a little while. And it worked miracles, because while it sounds like it's just porn blocker, it's everything blocker. You can go into this app and you can, type in keywords such as Russia, Ukraine, war, bombs, nukes, guns, politics, Trump, any words that trigger your anxiety. Put them into that little filter, and you will not be able to look up anything with those words in it on your regular internet browsing app. So if you put the word, missile, well, you can no longer Google search the word missile, and any article that you would find that had that word in it would immediately be blocked. And you could put in any amount of words. We tried it. It worked like a charm. Here I am, 2.5 months, not reading the news. I have slipped up 2 times. Both times, Robert has been able to pull me out of it after about an hour. At one point, it took about a day. But it used to take me weeks to get off of the fear and anxiety spirals that I was constantly going into. Now it takes me a day at most, or a half a day, or an hour. I am able to let go and just live my life. And you can ask anybody in my life the happiness that has returned to me, the feel of control that I have again, the joy that I radiate. It is completely different than what has been the last 4 years of my life that has been constant anxiety and fear and dread and not knowing if I was going to wake up in the morning. Now I don't worry about those things, and you don't have to either. I promise you, look, the news is going to constantly tell you that the world is worse than it ever has been. But I can promise you, as somebody who has talked to a lot of older members of my church who have been through a lot worse, it's not. It's not nearly as bad as everybody wants you to believe it is. Yeah, there's pockets of bad, but there is always going to be. You don't need to read about it. You don't need to care about it. Unless it's directly affecting you, and I mean directly affecting you, you don't need to focus on it. Life is going to go on. You are going to continue to age, and you are going to look back on your life one day and regret all of the time that you spent panicking and anxiety and fear and running away from people and shutting people out and locking yourself in your house. I promise you, you're going to regret it. I lost 4 years of the first 5 years of my marriage to this, and I'm not losing anymore. This does work. It does, I promise. Cutting it off, cutting out the poison, it works. It really does. It is a lifesaver, I promise you. I wouldn't tell you this, and I wouldn't be talking to you about this if I didn't believe it was a solution to the problem. I hope that everybody who watches this, whether it's on Debunking Doomsday's Facebook, on the new website that Robert has painstakingly built for all of you, or it's just shared individually, things will be okay. Ignorance is bliss. You don't need to know about everything going on in the world right now, especially not if it's going to hurt you in the end of the day. Live your life. Live it to its fullest every single day. Because for all you know, you could choke on a chicken wing tonight. You could get into a car wreck. In fact, you're more likely to get into a car wreck than you are anything you're probably worried about. Any number of things could end your life, but most of those things aren't going to be the things that you're worried about. It's going to come naturally. So don't worry so much about when you're going to die, how you're going to die, and who's going to do it. Focus on now. Focus on your kids, your family, your moms, your dads, your husbands and wives. Focus on your relatives, your job, your hobbies, your animals, your pets. Focus on the things that bring you joy. Collect stuffed animals. Try to get all the quarters that they've printed with the weird pictures on the back of it. Go hunting, go fishing, go for a walk every evening. It's really helpful, especially as the weather cools down. Find a new hobby. Take up a new hobby. There's so many different hobbies out there, and those hobbies can really be a good way to release some of your pent-up energy. Be active. Eat your favorite food. Talk to your best friend. And sleep at night knowing that you don't need to worry about what's coming tomorrow, as long as you focus on 1 minute ahead of you. That's all you need to worry about. I promise you're going to be okay, because I was okay, and I never thought I was going to be. But you will be. If you just set it down and walk away, you will be okay. I hope you all have a wonderful evening wherever you're at, or a wonderful day wherever you're at. You are loved. You are cherished. You are valuable. You are more valuable than what this fear tells you to feel. Don't forget that, and don't let it control you. Bye.